Yes, sir! What's up, boys? We back with another video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how Luka Doncic has surpassed James Harden. Okay, as we all know, Luka Doncic had a historical performance in the bubble playoffs this year. We saw this guy but pretty much average a triple-double. He averaged 39 and 8, so he was pretty close to a triple-double against one of the toughest defensive teams that we've ever seen. Obviously, that team didn't live up to its potential. I'm talking about the Clippers. Now, we saw Luka go up against guys like Kawhi, Pat Beverly, Paul George, all touted as some of the NBA's best defenders, and he shredded each and every one of them. Guys, if James Harden was in the same position, had to go up against the Clippers by himself, because Luka went up against the Clippers by himself. Porzingis was hurt for most of that series, and he put up numbers that we've never seen before. Hit game winners as a second-year player. James Harden, he's 30 years old. He's been in this league for 10 years now. If he was in that same position, there's no way he could have accomplished half of what Luka has done. Yes, James Harden is a great scorer. Yes, he's a great playmaker and all that shit. But time after time after time, we see in the playoffs, this guy lets us down. We expect him to take the Rockets to at least the conference finals, if not the finals. We've had finals expectations for James Harden for a long time. Luka Doncic is in his second season, going into his third season now. And every year he's getting better and better. Does he have areas that he needs to improve? Of course he does. But the things that he's doing so well at the tender age of 20 to 21 already only goes to show that the ceiling is the roof for this guy, as Michael Jordan would say. Like, in my opinion, Luka Doncic is already one of the 5 best players in the league. We know at the top 3 we have KD, LeBron, and Kawhi in no particular order. I think Luka is in the top 5. We can debate who the last guy is, whether it be Giannis, AD, or James Harden, whoever the case may be. But Luka, to me, is a top 5 player in this league, and he's better than James Harden. The things we have to consider, guys, things we have to keep in mind. People always compare Luka and James Harden because, yes, they both do step-back threes. Yes, they both operate in isolation. Yes, they both operate and shred pick-and-roll defense. But they're not the same player. Luka Doncic, let's talk about James Harden. James Harden is 6'5", with shoes on, 6'4" without shoes, maybe about 220. And he plays a shooting guard / point guard. He can guard position 1 through 3 effectively. On defense, he averages more steals and more blocks than Luka. Now let's look at Luka. Luka Doncic is 6'7". That's 2 to 3 inches taller than James Harden, playing the same position. Luka can play anywhere from the 1 to the 4. He's more versatile than James Harden in that way. He can play 4 positions. If you have James Harden playing at the 4 spot, your team is going to get shredded defensively. If you have Luka playing at the 4 spot, depending who you have playing at your 5, you can live with that because his 6'7" frame, 230 pounds, is strong enough to guard most of today's NBA 4-mans. Like, who are really the imposing 4s in the league nowadays? All 4s have been pushed down to 5s. Like, guys who used to play 4 back in the day, like Serge Ibaka, play 5 now. Your average 4s are more a guy like Christian Wood. These lanky, slender guys who can space out the floor. Luka can hold his own at the 4. James Harden can't. So he's more versatile in that way. As I told you, he's 2 inches taller than James Harden, and he weighs 10 more pounds. James Harden, if he had to guard Luka one-on-one, he'd be in for a problem because he's so physically imposing. Luka is built more so like a Kawhi or Paul George than James Harden. James Harden is more built like a Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Dwayne Wade. Luka is built more so like a LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George. He has that size. So he has more size than James Harden. His shooting, they both are not the most effective shooters. Their shot selection is not the best. They settle for a lot of step back shots, and some of that is due to their usage rate being used for every single play down the floor, having to make the offense up by themselves. But wait, James Harden plays with Russell Westbrook. So he no longer, and even the season before that, he played with Chris Paul. He doesn't have to come down the court every single play and decide, okay, what are we going to do? What play are we going to run? Who's going to go where? Okay, you go here. You go to the corner. I'll find you. Come set me a screen. Luka has to run the offense every single time down the floor. Do you guys get that? Luka is running the offense every single time down the floor. So let's go back to those defensive numbers. You see James Harden averages more steals and more blocks than Luka. And you would say, with Luka's size, why isn't he averaging more steals and more blocks? Guys, when you're coming down the floor and running every single offensive play, creating every single offensive play, yes, Rick Carlisle is running plays, but when you have to, as a basketball player, you have to decide which one of those plays you're going to go to, and you have to read the defense, that shit gets exhausting. You're expending a lot of energy, playmaking, ball handling, running through pick and roll, shit like that, running through screens. You're expending a lot of energy on offense. For him to come back on the defensive end and play intense defense, it's going to be hard for him. If Luka had a guy who could run some plays on offense, like James had Chris Paul, James has Russell Westbrook, he takes plays off. Mind you, he takes plays off and still gets gassed in the playoffs. The whole point of the Rockets bringing in Russell Westbrook, bringing in Chris Paul, was because for years on years, we saw James Harden get gassed in the playoffs. And the excuses being made were, oh, he needs someone to back him up and all this shit. The excuses has nothing to do with him needing someone to back him up. This bubble playoffs, he was off for like 4 and 5 months. Apparently he was getting into the best shape of his life. Still going into the playoffs, we saw James Harden once again getting gassed in games. Not giving effort. Hands on his hips. People want me to get excited because he blocked a shot in Game 7 against OKC. That series shouldn't have even had to go to Game 7 if you were bringing defensive intensity the whole series, but you weren't. You were pick and choosing your spots, as you always do. Give Luka a secondary playmaker, a guy like Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. I'm not saying put those guys on Dallas. I'm saying if he had a secondary playmaker and ball handler, someone to allow him to take plays off and rest, move off ball. Imagine Luka moving off ball like a Clay or Steph, catching and shooting. His 3-point percentage would go way up. His field goal percentage would go way up. The reason his percentages aren't as high as they can be is because he's creating all these off the dribble shots and he's heavily contested, oftentimes drawing multiple defenders to him. Do you guys get that? Luka's field goals percentage would be much higher if he had a secondary playmaker like James Harden does. James Harden has a secondary playmaker. 2 of the best point guards of our generation have played alongside James Harden. His field goal percentages are still horrendous. Do you guys get that? Do you see the difference here? Luka's field goal percentages are not good, but he's doing it by himself in the backcourt. He's not taking any plays off. He's not able to move off ball as much as he'd like to. He's working with Delon Wright. Delon Wright is not going to get it done with a guy like Luka. You need a real guy that can run the offense sometimes and give Luka a break. Let Luka move off ball. Let Luka get an off ball screen. Slide to the corner for a 3. You know what I mean? Like, this guy can't come down every time running the offense by himself. He's going to get tired. He's going to get mentally exhausted, and he won't be able to put in the intensity he needs to put on defense. I promise you guys, in my opinion, Luka Doncic has already surpassed James Harden. Seeing what I saw against the Clippers in the playoffs was more than enough for me. He did that by himself. KP was hurt for most of the series. Dwight Powell, his main pick and roll partner, Before Dwight Powell got injured, Mavs had the best offense in the whole league in history. They had the best offense in history. And even then, after he got injured, they were still producing at a very high level. He didn't have Dwight Powell or KP to work with. He still averaged 30 points, 8 assists, and 9 boards. What more do you want from this guy? Once Luka gets the right pieces around him, the comparison between him and James Harden will no longer be a comparison. It's just that I already see that, and I don't think you guys do. I have this conversation with people all the time. Who's better, Luka or James? People want to tell me James is better because he scores 50 points, scores 60 points, That's great in the regular season, but what are you doing in the playoffs? What are you really doing in the playoffs? We've seen you fuck up in the playoffs year after year after year. This was Luka's first time to the playoffs, and he had a LeBron-like performance against the Warriors by himself, taking the Clippers to 7 games. Like, guys, let me know in the comments if you guys agree or disagree. Who do you think is better, Luka or James Harden? I already know the answer. I don't know when you guys are going to wake up and see it for yourself. Maybe this season, Luka has to average 70 and 20 boards and 20 assists before you guys realize that he's truly a young GOAT in the making. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, guys. I'm out.